Hello kids, this is teacher Eleanor for your science lesson. This week we will be studying about the ecosystem, tropical rainforests, coral reefs, and mangrove swamps. But before we will start with our lesson, let us pause for a while first for our morning prayer. Lord, thank you for a new day. Please go before me and clear the way. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for loving me. In Jesus' name, Amen. Good day mga bata! Here I am again, Teacher Eleanor, for this week's lesson. Okay ba ang atong lesson last week? Ang katong unang simana? So, sa 2 weeks na ito, nag-lesson ta about animals. We have vertebrates or the animals with backbones and the invertebrates or the animals without backbones. Last week, we studied about Module 5, Animals, Characteristics of Invertebrates. So let us review first what are the groups of invertebrates and its characteristic. Invertebrates class has 8 main groups. The first group is a group of arthropods or arthropoda. They have segmented bodies and tough skeleton with jointed appendages and hardened outer skeleton. Now, of all the group of invertebrates, this is the largest group in the animal kingdom, which can be further classified on the number or pairs of legs. We have crustaceans, 5 or more pairs of legs. Insecta, 3 pairs of legs. Arachnids, 4 pairs of legs. Chilopoda, 1 pair of legs per segment. And Diplopoda, 2 pairs of legs per segment. Examples of arthropods are crabs, scorpions, insects, spiders, millipedes, centipedes, and barnacles. Take note, arthropoda or the arthropods are the largest group in the animal kingdom. Now let's proceed to group 2, mollusk or mollusca, phylum mollusca. They are described as soft-bodied animals with shells inside or outside their bodies called endoskeleton. Examples of this group of animals are snails, clams, squids, octopus. Mollusks, these are the animals with outer or inner shell covering. Now, the shells could be inside or outside. The third group is a group of echinoderms or the phylum Echinodermata. These are marine animals with spiny endoskeleton. They have water vascular system, tube feet, and radial symmetry as adults. So, echinoderms are described as spiny-skinned animals. No? They have spines and bumps on their bodies. Examples are the sea stars, the brittle stars, the sea urchin, swaki or tuyom, and the sea cucumber, and other animals nga na ay mga tunok-tunok sa ilang lawas. They are classified as echinoderms. The fourth group is the group of poriferans or the phylum Porifera. These are the animals with many holes or pores in their bodies. They are pore-bearing animals which attach themselves to rocks or on the seafloor. Examples of these are the sponges found in the coral reefs. The fifth group is the group of cnidarians. No? Examples are the jellyfish, the corals, the sea anemones, the hydras. Now, they are also called as coelenterates or belonging to phylum Coelenterata. They are hollow intestine animals. They have one body opening and most have two-layer cells. And the sixth group is the group of platyhelminthes. These are the flat-bodied animals, flattened, elongated, worm-like animals. Actually, they are not worms. No? They are only worm-like, which means mura sila tanawon ng worms. Pero their bodies are flat. Examples are flatworms, the flukes, and the tapeworms. Seventh group is the group of nematodes or phylum Nematoda. They are elongated, unsegmented, worm-like or thread-like animals. They are free-living or parasites. Parasitic animals ni sila. Parasites of humans, it could be parasites of plants, or parasites of other animals. No? Elongated, unsegmented, dili siya pwede maputol-putol. Examples of this, I'm sorry but I have to mention this because this is very important. Kanang ascaris, kanang mga bitok, they are belonging to phylum Nematoda. Ascaris, vinegar eels, the hookworms, the pinworms. That is why class, during the start of classes, July, before sa normal pang atong life, July, i-deworm na gidayon mo. And then second deworming stage ninyo is on January or karon February, na-deworm na ang tata. Diba? Okay. Tagalon ang mga worms because they are all parasites sa atong lawas. And finally, the eighth group of invertebrates is the group of annelids or belonging to phylum Annelida. They are also elongated, worm-like animals with externally evident segmentation or ring animals. Na sila'y mga portion nga murag nagbagis-bagis nga maputol. Just like earthworms, class, nga kung maputol siya, it's just okay. It will regenerate. Masumpayan na mabuhi ra gihapon siya. Now, they have body segments that allow for specialization of tissues and for efficient movement. Examples of them are the earthworms, the leeches, and the logworms. So, those are the 8 groups of invertebrates. So, since we are through with the 8 group of invertebrates, welcome to our new lesson. Nainusad ang atong lesson. This is all about ecosystem. The place, the habitat where the animals live, interacting with one another, both living and non-living things. This module is divided into 3 lessons. Meaning class, ani nga module, ani nga kwanato, nga week tulo ato lessons. Lesson 1 is identifying and discussing the interactions among living and non-living things in tropical rainforest sa mga lasang. Lesson 2, identifying and discussing interactions among living and non-living things in coral reefs sa dagat. No, nga na sa ato unahan. And lesson 3, identifying and discussing the interactions among living and non-living things in mangrove swamps. So tulugid ka lesson, taas-taas ang atong lesson for this week. So please bear with me, just listen carefully so that you will be learning something from me. What I know. So, before we start sa atong main lesson, mag-test anay ta kadiyot. Okay na? Ready na? Awesome! Okay, you may now get your answer sheets provided. Try to look at what I know. Read each item carefully and choose the letter of the best answer. Write your answer on your answer sheet. Okay, same lang yapon before. I will read the questions twice. You read silently the choices and write the letter only. Okay? Let's start. Number 1. What are the things needed by plants to make their own food? What are the things needed by plants to make their own food? A, B, C, and D. Time is up. Number 2. What kind of interaction is shown when worms live in the guts and flesh of a fish? What kind of interaction is shown when worms live in the guts and flesh of a fish? A, B, C, D. Don't you worry, class, I know these words are new to you, but as I've said before, you can still repeat or replay this so that your answers will be correct. Let's proceed to number 3. Number 5. Which of the following pairs of organisms shows commensalism? Which of the following pairs of organisms shows commensalism? Number 6. Which of the following describes a canopy of the rainforest? Or ba siya ato kunohay sa rainforest? Which of the following describes a canopy of the rainforest? Number 7. Why is producer important in an ecosystem? Producer class, kana bang mga organism nga mao'y mo produce ang ila kaugalingong food? Why is producer important in an ecosystem? Okay, let's proceed to number 8. Blank results from the interconnected food chains. Blank results from the interconnected food chain. Number 9. A reef that stands between the open sea and a lagoon refers to blank. A reef that stands between the open sea and a lagoon refers to blank. And finally, number 10. Why is there a need to protect and conserve the mangrove swamp ecosystem? Why is there a need to protect and conserve the mangrove swamp ecosystem? Again, don't you worry, class, because as we proceed to our succeeding lessons sa atong discussion, you can still replay this para inyong ma-corrected whatever mistakes that you have. Okay? Now, lesson 1 is all about the ecosystem in our tropical rainforest. Wow, kalami sa atong illustration. Try to look at the illustration, class. Living things kuno and non-living things interact with each other in a tropical rainforest ecosystem. Nag-interact sila. No, they're interacting with one another. The living things, those things nga naay life, and the non-living things, those things nga walay life. Living things include the plants and the animals, while non-living things include the soil, the air, the humidity, water, and sunlight. Now, as you can see on the illustration, there are lots of animals that are present there, like the snakes, the monkeys, the birds, the butterflies, the wild pig, and lots of different species of plants. Then the non-living things is the river, the air, the water in the river, the air, na kung mag-uwan, the rain, di ba? Those are the non-living things found in the tropical rainforest ecosystem. Now, what's in? The following are found in tropical rainforest. You are going to classify them as living things or non-living things. You are going to write your answer on your answer sheet. No? I-separate ang living things, i-separate sad ang non-living things. So living things, by the way class, let me remind you, these are the organisms nga naay life, mabuhi. Non-living things, these are the organism nga wala sila life. Dili sila matawag dito na organism. The things nga wala life. They will not grow. Okay, you have tropical shrubs, kanang mga tanom-tanom, the carbon dioxide, the trees, the sunlight, the birds, and the oxygen. Write the letter or write the words properly, class. Make your spelling correct. Let's proceed. What's new? How I wish I could go to a place like this. So refreshing. This is a part of forest. Have you gone to a forest? Nakangato na taglasang. Ako, I have gone once. No, when we went to Tres Marias Falls in Cabintan, together with the other teachers. No, ang munagian mga forest. Part ito sa forest. How will you describe the ecosystem? How do living things and non-living things interact in the ecosystem? As you can see there, you have plenty of plants. Plants ang ato makitaan nga na. No, dagan kayong plants. Then you have the presence of the falls, the river, the stones, or the rocks. Okay? The ecosystem is an environment where both living and non-living things exist and interact with one another. So, ang atong lugar nga gipuy-an is an example class of an ecosystem. Ang diri sa school nga amo permi trabahuan is also an example of an ecosystem. There are living things and there are also non-living things. Now, these living things and non-living things are interacting with one another. This interaction enables the survival of living things and affects the non-living things. So kita, as living things, we are able to survive because of the living things and non-living things present in the ecosystem. For example, number one nato i-consider ang atong food that we eat. So, we are eating plants. Living things na siya. We are drinking water. Non-living things man na. But we use them in order to survive. For survival. Example of ecosystem is the tropical rainforest. Living things that can be found here are the plants, the presence of plants and animals. The non-living things include air, humidity, water, and sunlight. So nato makita nga na maklaro na ay birds, na ay bees, mga insects, from afar to ay deer, na ay mga plants, na ay fish. No? Naidagan pa makita nato din ha. Rainforest has different layers, namely the emergent, the canopy, the understory, and the forest floor. Sumaday ng emergent. Emergent refers to trees that are 130 to 180 feet tall. So, ang mga tag-as, kaayo nga mga trees, namang yung mga trees na mulabaw yun, mga tag-as, this part is called the emergent. While the canopy, on the other hand, has tall, slender trees from a dense platform of vegetation with 60 to 129 feet on the ground. So, gikan sa ground, pasidong siya sa taas, ang iyang katason mo abot og 129 feet below. Mga 60 to 129 feet below na ana siya sa canopy. Mura na sila mo atop sa forest. No? Then the understory is about 59 feet and below. After sa canopy, 59 no, then pasidong sa ubos, that's the understory. Now, about 59 feet and below and consists of trunks, ang mga lawas na sa mga trees, the shrubs, kanang mga trees nga mga buon, they are considered as shrubs. The trees, ang mga trees nga mga mubuon, and the small plants. And finally, the last part, ang pinakaubos guys ang tanan, is what we call as the forest floor. This is the home to animals like jaguars, tigers, cassowaries, which thrive in a deep shade of the forest where plant life is thin. This is because only a small percent of sunlight gets through the thick canopy. Di ba ning ko ang canopy murag ato? Okay. So na gamay na lang makapenetrate, makasud nga sunlight pasidong ato sa forest floor. And understory enriches the forest floor organisms like fungi, mga insects, mga invertebrates, mga worms, mga centipede, millipedes. They litter from taller trees that fall on the forest floor can be found here. In short, ang mga animals kadaghanan nagstay sa forest floor. Okay? Producers provide food for the consumers, which include herbivores, plant-eating animals. No? Mga herbivores, the plant-eating animals. Now, kisa may nag-provide anak nila of food, these are the producers. Kisa may na mga producers, these are the plants. The plants are the producers. They produce their own food. We cannot see any plant roaming around na merkado ka napalit o iyang pagkaon. No, because the plant can make its own food. That is why we classify the plant as producers. They provide food for the first order consumers, which are the herbivores or the animals that eat mainly plants, plant-eating animals. No? Likewise, mag-provide sila of food sa mga carnivores. Kisa may mag-provide of food sa mga carnivores. These are the animals that eat the plants, no? The herbivores. The herbivores provide food also for the carnivores because the herbivores serve as their food. Carnivores are the flesh-eating animals. These are the animals that eat mainly animals or flesh of animals. Example, kanang mga tiger, lion, mana sila ay mga carnivores, no? They do not eat plants. Ang ilang kaunon animals. Pero remember, kanang animals nga ilang gikaon, ni kaon na og plants tong una, no? When they were still alive. So herbivores provide food for the carnivores. Now, balik ko na to. The producers provide food for the herbivores. Sunod, the herbivores provide food for the carnivores. Producers include the trees, the shrubs, and other plant life in the forest. Feeding relationships like food chain and food web occur among species in the forest ecosystem. Food chain starts with producer, a series of consumers, and finally decomposers. Decomposers class are the organisms that will eat up the carnivores. No? Kanang murag ila ba i-act ang kanang ilang dead bodies, mga decayed bodies na sila makapalata. Food web results from the interconnected food chains. Meaning in the ecosystem, naigitawag nato nga food chain. Sa manang food chain, magsugod na food relationship, ang kuan sa pagkaon, no? Nagsugod jud na siya sa energy. Then sa plants, ang plants gikaon og caterpillar, Ang caterpillar gikaon og bird. Ang bird gikaon sa snake. Ang snake namatay ni kuan-ana ang decomposer giod siya na lata and go back to the soil. Ma-fertilize na ang soil. Okay? Okay. Wala na kung ganyang example. We have the plant eaten by the worm. By the way, the plant gets its energy from the sun. So the main supplier of energy is the sun. Eaten by the plant gets energy from the sun in order to manufacture food. Para siya maka-manufacture ng iyang kaugalingong food. Then the plant is eaten by the worm. The worm is the first order consumer or the primary consumer. Herbivore ang worm. Then the worm is eaten by the chicken. No, nikaon ng chicken o worm, mukaon sa siya o pasi or anything na nga gikan sa plants. Okay. So, consumer ang chicken, mukaon siya both plants and animals. Kaya nikaon man siya og worm, mukaon sa siya og rice, no, mga prutas nga kanang ituhikon. And then suddenly the chicken is eaten by the snake. The snake is carnivore. Ang yang gikaon ang chicken, carnivore di siya. And then namatay si snake, the fungi act on its decayed body. And eventually, ang katong decayed body will nourish the soil, making the soil fertile. Okay? Another example kanina nagyapon yan sa atong illustration. Na ang plants, no? Ikan sa bird, ang nectar sa flower, then kaunon siya sa snake, ang snake ikaon sa hawk, then mamatay ang hawk, kaunon siya sa fungi and bacteria. Now, when we say food web class, this is a series of food chains interacting with one another. So, usa ka food chain, dahil sa ilayan yung food chain, daghan kaayo nga food chain nya, lain-lain ang mukha nila. Ato himay-himayon. Like for example, corn. Corn is eaten by grasshopper. Grasshopper could be eaten by rat or could be by frog. Rat is eaten by python. This is a snake. Frog is also eaten by python. So, duha na siya ka food chain. The food chain composed of corn, grasshopper, rat, and python. The second food chain composed of corn, grasshopper, frog, and python. Then the python is eaten by the eagle. No? And so on and so forth. Daghan pa kaayo nga mga interconnected food chains diha. No? Muna gitawag siya web kay nag-interconnected with each other man siya. No? Kaya dili man lang usaray kaunon sa snake, lain maiyang kaunon. Nakatong iyang lain-lain nga gikaon sa tuog, lain. Muna ng series of food chains interconnected with one another is what we call as food web. There are different organisms living in this ecosystem which interact with each other. There are interactions that exist the organisms in the tropical rainforest. May mga interaction nga nag-exist nga ng tropical rainforest. Lain-lain nga mga interaction. The first interaction or relationship nga nag-exist is commensalism. Commensalism is an interaction where organisms live together without harming one another. For example, orchids attach to the trunk of the tree without harming it. Okay, ako ihimay-himay eksakto. May nandito commensalism class, ang organism, ni puyo siya nga sa laing organism. No? Mura siya nang hasol, no? Kaya nga naman, gamit man siya sa usa ka organism. Pero katong yung organism nga gipuyan, it's just okay. I don't care. Balag mo puyo ka din na ako, okay lang. Anyway, wala may nakuha na ako. Kisa na may naka-benefit. In the case of orchid and tree, ang naka-benefit ra si tree. Si orchid. Because orchid is alive because of the presence of the tree. Kung wala ang tree, mamatay si orchid. Pero ang tree dili mamatay kung wala si orchid. Okay ra niyag na si orchid, pwede ra sa niyag wala si orchid. So the relationship is called commensalism. Only one is benefited, only one is benefited while the other one is not affected. Okay. The next relationship is what we call as mutualism. Marabag sa kon mga, the feeling is mutual. In mutualism class, both organisms benefit in the relationship. No? Sila ng duha. So, naka-benefit siya sa relationship. For example, a bee or butterfly suck nectar from a flower and the flower reproduces. Ako kanan. Si bee nagkinahanglan og nectar. Kisa may nagproduce sa nectar? Si flower. Usa may matabang ni bee ngadto kang flower. Naamay mo pilit nga mga pollen grains sa mga tiil, sa mga wings sa bee. Mubalhin siya one flower to another, mahugad to ang mga pollen grains, ma-pollinate until mo-produce sa siya lain nga plant. No? So the bee helps in the reproduction of plants. Okay, muna gitawag nato nga mutualism. Na example nga na, ningang ano si Croaky, si crocodile na ay bird. I'm sorry. Okay, so man nga naman ang mom ko, naman no. The crocodile will not eat the bird. No? Mura na ba na siyang ginawa si crocodile pag ginawa anak niya ni Sod si birdie. Tapos kanang nanghingi ki sorry for the word, na mga food scraps nga natira sa iyang mga dila, sa mga kilid-kilid sa iyang mga ngipon, kisa may nagtanggal ana si bird. Na? Siya ni kuan. So, asa may benefit nga makuha sa bird? Of course, makakuha siya og food. Asa may benefit nga nakuha, nahatag ni bird ngadto ni crocodile? Nagwagtang ang iyang mga food scraps nga nangakuha iyang mga kiki. Diba? I can still remember when we were still young, magkuha kunuhay mi o kanang kuan sa among kanang piso ba? Kanang di makita ang among ugang, piso pagti mo sining nga ana, tapos ubta na mo piso, ang piso musig siya kanang ana makuha among mga kiki. No, kalingawan lang when we were still young. But it's true. So in the case also of butterfly, mara gyapon na. Okay, then ang deer, no, ang deer na yung mga birds, di kuha siya sa mga kuan nga na, no, sa mga kuto-kuto sa deer, mga kung nga nag-live sa iyang lawas, tapos naka-benefit si deer, kaya nakuha man ang kana siya mga parasites nga nasa iyang fur, pagkatima, nalimpyo siya. Okay, nabusog man sa bird. Okay, next, kana sang fruit o ang trees, a fruit of the trees, and then ang bird, naka-help sa si bird sa pag-reproduce anang trees. Okay? Next is competition. From the word compete, na nagkuan sila, nagpalumba, it's not race. No, nag-ilugay. This is the kuan. Nag-ilugay sila naturally sa food, sa growth, no? Competition is an interaction wherein organisms compete for survival. For example, the grass, the shrubs, the flowers, and trees, they grow together in one area where they compete for source of food. No? In the case of mga kuan, in the case of plants, di man sila mag-compete sa source of food because they can make their own food man. So, they are competing in the sense of getting the sunlight, energy ang nilang i-compete. Muna ang trees nga taas, maka-grow tall siya, daghan nga energy iyang makuha. While the shrubs, especially ang mga grasses na gyud, wala na kay gamay lang nilang kuan. No, muna mo-produce sila gila kagalingon nila. Okay. In the case of animals, in the tropical rainforest, these animals are competing with one another for food and survival. Mag-ilugay sila sa pagkaon. So, ang mahimo nga predator ang katong makaon, magbantay gyud siya para dili siya ma-eat up sa carnivore. Next, amo na nang sumpay sa kagingan, predation. The so-called predator-prey relationship. Predation is a kind of interaction in which one organism kills, patayon niya. Usually, ang mapatay ang smaller organisms. Number one reason is for food. Example of this is when a snake eats a rat na ang na atong makitaan. Now, the rat is being eaten by the snake for food. Predator usually organisms which are stronger, which are bigger, and fiercer compared to the other organism. So, ang mga worms, ang mga caterpillar, they serve as food. No? Ang lower or smaller animals, they serve as food for bigger animals. Oh, ato makita nga na. Ang grasshopper ni kaon sa siya gamay nga insect. The frog also eats dragonfly. Pero ang frog kaunon sa na siya sa snake, kaunon sa na siya sa bigger animals, kaunon sa siya sa dako nga bird, or heron. Okay. So, those were the relationships that exist in the tropical rainforest: competition, mutualism, commensalism. Okay, so you're going to read and answer the following items. Write your answer on your answer sheets. Okay, pwede rin ninyo siya mabalik para maka-answer mo. Question number 1. What are the interaction that exist among living things and non-living things in tropical rainforest? Ako to gisulti karon pa lang yun. Okay, discuss the interaction between plants and sunlight in a tropical rainforest. Unsa kuno nga interaction? Ako gyud po nag-mention nga to, kanto mga trees in the tropical rainforest in order to get sunlight na interaction nga ilang na kuan. Na? Sa galing to? Yes, it's competition. Competition to get energy. What will happen if producers will decrease in a forest ecosystem? So, sa mga may tabo ko ng katong mga producer, ma-decrease sila. Kung magamay na lang ang mga producers, do you think na apay food ang mga consumers? Thinking. Now, are these interactions among living things and non-living things important? Important ba itong mga mutualism, commensalism, predation? Important ba kaayo to? Yes or no? And why? Now, for what I have learned, you are going to complete the paragraph below. Choose your answer from the words inside the box. Write your answer in your science journal or on your answer sheets. So your choices are mutualism, ecosystem, understory, commensalism, canopy, predation, emergent, forest floor, food chain, and food web. Okay? Then you are going to read, then fill in with the correct answer. The blank is an environment where both living and non-living things exist and interact with one another. The different layers of rainforest are blank, 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 and blank. Pato. Okay, and then pilian. Don't you worry again. You may pause so that you can answer. You may replay. Okay, for what I can do, read the paragraph and answer the questions that follow. Living things and non-living things interact with each other in a tropical rainforest ecosystem. This interaction enables the survival of living things and affects non-living things. Can you identify? For example, sample na ha, plants and carbon dioxide. Unsa may imo explanation? Plants need carbon dioxide for food making. In return, it releases oxygen during the process of photosynthesis. So, ang plants, magkinahanglan og carbon dioxide para makahimo siya food. Para siya in return, makabawas kuno ay siya, mo release ang plants of oxygen needed by the animals. For additional activities, you are going to the table below shows a different interaction in a tropical rainforest. Choose the organism that shows the kind of interaction in a given ecosystem. Write the letter only. So we have mutualism, A and B. Number 2, commensalism, A and B. Number 3, competition, A and B. Then we have number 4, cooperation, A and B. Nag-cooperate siya, nagtinabangay. Number 5, predation, A and B. Okay, so we're done with lesson 1. So let's continue with our lesson 2. And this is all about coral reefs, na? The garden in the sea. So we will be talking for few minutes ang atong hisgutan, ang garden ilawom sa atong dagat, no? Ang aquarium na nagit sa dagat. Coral reef is rich with marine life, no? These are the lives nga naa sa dagat. It is a marine biome. It is composed of non-living things and living things. The living part composed of different species like fish, seagrass, corals, sponges, and other marine animals. Wow, ka-nice guys atong illustration na na siya tanan sa ilawom sa atong dagat. What's new? Answer the following question below. Write your answers on your science journal. Okay, tanawa lang anay ang atong illustration yan, no? See how beautiful it is, no? Kanang colorful corals, then colorful fishes also. Have you gone to a coral reef? In our dialect, binagong. O ako wala pa. I am afraid of water. No, maramahadlo ko sa dagat ay nalumos ko. So how will you describe this ecosystem? How do living and non-living things interact in coral reefs ecosystem? So ganahan lang ko class, mutanaw ani niya sa TV, no, sa National Geographic. Ganahan na kay ko magtinanaw. But in reality, mahadlo ko kung ngadto ko sa ilawom sa dagat. Coral reefs serve as habitat for many animals. So, puyanan siya sa mga daghang klase sa mga animals. They are a breeding ground of marine life. It is composed of non-living components such as water and sand, and living components such as fish, crustaceans, mollusks, cnidarians, sponges, and echinoderms. Diba? Nag-mention ko ani nga mga animals during sa atong lesson last week about invertebrates. So most of the invertebrates are found in the sea. Lots of them are found in the sea. Just like the ecosystem in coral reefs, organisms interact with each other. So kumpara atong forest ecosystem, kini sang mga organisms sa coral reef, they are interacting with one another. The producers like seagrass, okay, mga grasses nga nasa ilam sa dagat, provide food and nutrients to the consumers. So, asa man itong mga food and nutrients ang katong uban mga producer o ang katong mga uban nga mga consumer, mga herbivores, nga na sila mukaon sa mga seagrasses. The producers, these consumers include sea turtles, crabs, manatees, or dogong, fishes, and other marine animals. So, kana siya class, wala pa na siya ninggahi nga mga corals. Corals, by the way, is not non-living. It is a living thing. It is an animal. The factors that contribute to the coral reef formation are temperature, light, penetration, stable salinity, and water movement. So, mo mga factors nga na contribute ang coral reef, na form ang coral reef. No? Unsa man to siya mga factors? Temperature, light penetration, stable salinity, and water movement. Now, by the way, class, ang coral reef, wala na siya or dili na ito makitaan sa lawom nga portion sa ocean. No. Pila lang na ka meters na ay mga coral reefs, nga pila ka meters gikan sa kuan, baybayon. No? Kay, it's not new to you, kaya nakangana maging mo sa ato unahan sa may binagong. There are different categories of coral reefs. We have the fringing reefs. These are the reefs that hug the shore of continents or islands. Nasa daplin lang, doon lang yun sa kuan, sa baybayon. Barrier reefs are reefs that stand between the open sea and lagoon. Ito na ang barrier reef, ito na siya sa lawom-lawom na portion. Kada mo mag-separate na ba siya sidong sa ocean, sa pinakalalim nga portion sa dagat, o sa lagoon. Coral atolls are reefs that enclose a lagoon. So there are interactions that exist in the coral reef's ecosystem. So nasa yung mga interaction nga nahitabo diha. Pagkanindot naman lamang tanahon sa coral reef. The first interaction is commensalism. Ganiya sa atong forest ecosystem, rainforest ecosystem, there is also commensalism that exists there. So, in the coral reef, there is also commensalism that exists. Commensalism is an interaction where organisms live together without harming one another. Nakinumdum pa, di ba? Ang isa example kaganiha, ang kato siyang orchid o ang tree, wherein the tree is not affected whether the orchid is there or not there. But the orchid is benefited. In this case, sa ato example, the barnacles attach to the skin of sea turtles or turtles without harming them. So magsigiog ka ng kuan si sea turtle, na idaghang mga barnacles nga nipilit sa iyang shell, okay ra. Dili maunsa si turtle. No, dili siya maunsa, walay mahitabo niya. Kisa may naka-benefit, only the barnacles. Barnacles are benefited while the host is not harmed. Okay, we also have another example. Kanisiya, stingray. No, this is a stingray, pagi. Dako ka siya nga pagi. Na yung mga fishes nga, magsige siya mag-uban-uban sa iya. Number one, unsa may maka-benefit, unsa may benefit nga ila makuha sa stingray? Protection. Now, they are being protected by the stingray. Dako kain na niya, kulapad, dili sila makita, magtago-tago na sila. Maybe scraps of food sand. No? Okay, but the stingray is not affected with the presence of fishes nga mag-uban-uban niya. No, dili lang, okay lang. Another example is kana siyang jellyfish. No, magsiman ana-ana ng jellyfish. Ana-ana na siya sa dagat. So, ang mga isda nga nagtago-tago sa iya, dili sila ma-affected. No, nya makakuha sa 6 scraps of food nga nasa jellyfish. The jellyfish is not affected with the presence of fishes and other marine organisms nga naa mag-ubay-ubay niya. And also we have kanang unsa na ang klase sa kuan murag dugong, kanang dugong baka na. Kanang dako kay nga isda nga kuang wala man na siya ngipon. No, musuyo pa na siya og kanang mga planktons. Then ang mga fishes makakaon sa iya gipang suyop. So, okay ra ba suyop niya or kuan? Okay ra sa dako nga isda nga naay mga gagmay nga nag-uban-uban niya. It is not affected. So, the relationship that exists is commensalism. Okay, next relationship that exists in the coral reef ecosystem is competition. So sa tropical rainforest, the animals living there are competing for food. The trees, also the plants, the shrubs, the grasses are competing for sunlight. So in the coral reef ecosystem, there is also what we call as competition. This is an interaction wherein organisms compete for survival. For example, the fishes compete for source of food. No, daghan kayo yung mga fishes na mag-compete sila sa source of food. And of course, sa space sa coral reef. No, mapailugay sila. Damo man kaay guminay mabuhi ng mga isda. So kung daghan kay mabuhi nila ang space magtikagamay. Class, these fishes are hiding in the coral reefs. Number one reason is protection gid talaga. Because if they will just pagalagala in the sea and they will not hide themselves in the corals, they will be eaten by bigger fishes. Competition on the reef, other organisms such as fish and crustaceans must also compete for limited resources. They normally do this by feeding in slightly different areas or in slightly different ways. Each has its own ecological niche. And next is also predation or predator-prey relationship. Daghaning to, ako kay tagisgutan karon nga the smaller fishes are hiding themselves in the coral reefs because they will serve as food for bigger fishes. No, the smaller fishes will serve as prey for the bigger fishes that serve as predator. Predation is a kind of interaction in which one organism kills smaller organisms for food. Examples of this is when a big fish eats eats a small fish. The predator, which is the big fish, benefits in the interaction, while the prey, the smaller fish, is harmed. Naturally, it is harmed kaya siya may makaon. Madedlo man siya. Okay, just like the shark is eating sama niya siya sea animal. Then we have bigger fish nga nikaon sad og smaller fish. So the relationship that exists is predation or the predator-prey relationship. Next is the so-called parasitism. From the word parasite. Parasitism is a kind of interaction where one organism, the parasite, depends on another organism for food, production, and reproduction. An example of this is when the worm lives in the guts and flesh of fishes. So sa mga pareha na sa kung sa isda na yung mga worms nga naglive sa iya dinhi dapita kanga na man siya mo kuan kana nga nay pagkaon. So, madaot ang fish. The fish is harmed with the presence of the parasitic worm. Now, the parasite depends on another organism for food, production, and reproduction. An example of this is when the worm lives in the guts and flesh of fishes. The worm is benefited while the fish is harmed by the parasite. O napagila mga lain-lain nga mga isda. Kung baga kung sa tao na igikuto, ang isda na sa dainan na mga worm-like animals or worms, small worms, nga naa nag-ubay-ubay sa iyang lawas. They are parasites. Kaya ka na siyang sa isda nga orange, permi ko na makakita ginana sa guts or sa gills, sa tamarong, kung magpadigog tamarong parasite, din na siya. Okay, so what's more? Answer the following questions. Write your answer on your on your answer sheets. So, magyapon to ganiha. What are the living things and non-living things found in the coral reefs? Daghan. Pwede rin nato ma-repeat. No, ma-replay. By the way, ma-replay. How do they interact with each other? Big fish and small fish, worm in the flesh and guts of fish. Are these interaction important? Nga naman. So, pwede nato siya ma-review. Okay. Para dili ta madugay, inyo lang na siya i-pause, then i-answer. You may just recite it. Okay, what I have learned. Complete the paragraph. Choose your answer from the words given inside the box below. Write your answer on your answer sheets. So you have there the words to choose. We have water movement, coral atolls, commensalism, temperature, parasitism, coral reefs, barrier reefs, fringing reefs, predation, and temperature. There are only 5 blanks there. The blanks serve as breeding ground of marine animals. Then Next paragraph na duha ka answer. Then the third paragraph na tulo ka answer. All in all, you will answer 6. Then, ay napuno. Blank is an interaction. Ito ang ato inyo ragyapon ibalik. Then in blank, both organisms benefit. For example, the coral receive from them. Blank is a kind of interaction. Blank is a kind of interaction. Yapon. So, 6 kaganiha, 4 karon for a total of 10. Do not waste the 10 items ha. Balik ka gyud para ka sure sa imong answer. Okay, what I can do. Living things and non-living things interact with each other in coral reef ecosystem. Coral reef is composed of non-living components such as water and sand. It serves as breeding place for fish, crustaceans, mollusks, cnidarians, sponges, and echinoderms. Their interaction enables the survival of living things and affects non-living things. Can you identify the living things in the coral reef ecosystem? Okay. Samantang mga interaction. Pwede ra gihapon i-review. For your additional activities, you are going to identify the interaction between the given pair of organisms in column A with the interaction in column B. You are going to write the letter only. Sea urchin, corals, unsa man? Mutualism, competition, predation, commensalism, or parasitism. Swaki, tuyom o corals. Barnacles and turtles. Nakinamdong? Ito ang ito sa illustration, di ba? Next, we have worm and fish. Samanto. Number 4, tuna fish and blue marlins. Mga blue marlin, nga ni ubay-ubay sa dagko kay nga tuna. And number 5, clownfish and sea anemone. Now, if you think you are in doubt with it, pwede ninyo siya i-research. If you have load or extra load or computer, internet connection at home, pwede ninyo siya i-Google. And finally, nanata sa atong last ecosystem to study with about mangrove swamps. Happy to tell you, class, that in Ormoc City, we also have a mangrove swamp here. Nakangato na mo? Yes, it is in Naungan. I've gone there. I've been there. Nakaadto ko. Okay. A mangrove swamp is a home of diverse living and non-living things. Different species of animals like crustaceans, fish, and mollusks compose the living part of the mangrove ecosystem. Mangrove plants are the main organisms that dominates this ecosystem. How do living and non-living things interact with each other in this environment? So, may mangrove class bakhawan, na siya sa naungan, no? Sa nga sa may tumoy. Naadaghan nga itong mga mangroves. Later on, ako ipakita ang mangrove sa naungan. Okay, for what's in, you're going to list down the things and non-living things that can be found in tropical rainforests and mangrove swamps. Write it on your answer sheets. Kung sa inyo makitaan sa tropical rainforest nga living things, what dayon? Sus kasayon. Non-living things, what dayon? Sa coral reefs, di day mangrove, no? Sa coral reefs, is what ng living things. Non-living things is sa tanan. Okay, review raman eh. Okay? Pwede pause ka diyan. Okay, what's new? Pick up the animals that can be found in mangrove swamp ecosystem. Write your answer on your activity or your answer sheets. Unsa man kaya ito makit-an nga anang sa mangrove ecosystem? You're going to list 5. Can you see monitor lizard, white heron, fiddler crab, makita ba tayo dolphin, oysters, snake, eagle, rat, bats, fish, monkey, clownfish, corals, sea urchin, sea anemone. 5 lang kabuok ang inyong isuwat. Okay. Yes, only 5. Mangrove swamps. Swamp ecosystem is composed mostly of mangrove plants, mga bakawan, nga ang iyang mga roots, pari nato nakitaan diha, ang iyang roots to sa ilawom sa tubig, then mo-extend na siya pasilong sa taas. Now, the animals like crustaceans and migratory birds. The non-living part composed of water, sand, mud, rocks, and sunlight. It is an important system that allows for the breeding of fishes and survival of other marine animals. It is also part of the coastal marine ecosystem. So kanang naay mga lugar nga daplin sa dagat, pero wala sila baybayon. Na sila dagan mga kanang gitawag nato nga bakhawan. In English, kanang mangrove plants. So kung tanawon nato ng kanang illustration, ilawom sa tubig na dagan mga isda nga sila mamuyo. No, the roots of the mangroves the mangroves itself serve as their breeding ground. Nga na sila mangitlog. Then ang katong mga itlog, mahimo sila mga fingerlings. And then later on, mahimo sila dagko ng mga isda. So mangrove swamps are great sources also of marine foods. There are varieties of marine and terrestrial life living in mangroves. Animals like white heron or tagak, na white ibis, and other birds inhabit the mangrove canopy. Nara na sila sa ibabaw, maglupad-lupad. No? Tapos magtanong-tanong sila, asa na ito yung mga isda? And then, they will just dive the fish and eat, of course. Okay, fishes and crustaceans live underneath the mangrove roots. Sa ilalim sa mga roots. Sa mangroves, organisms like oysters, mussels, they attach themselves to the trunk and lower branches of the mangroves, or even in the roots. Animals like monitor lizard, mud skipper, crustaceans such as shrimps and crabs live in mangrove swamps. Also, migratory birds like pelicans, spoonbills, and bald eagles are also found in this habitat or in this place. Some saltwater crocodiles can also live in Philippine mangrove swamps. Pangad bitaw na mo sa mangrove sanctuary sa naungan manlok pa tingay na ay crocodile pero wala man daw. Okay. Now this is an example of mangrove that grow in Bago City, Negros Occidental. So Negros Occidental has lots of mangrove trees, particularly in Bago City, baga kaayo. So daghan sa kaingon na og isda and other living organism. Okay, man na kagiingan ninyo. This is now the Mangrove Eco Park at Naungan, Ormoc City. We were able to go there. Kay medyo layo-layo man siya na sa kanang kuan gyud. Musakay mo og bangka, no? We were there last Christmas of 2019. Yes, Christmas of 2019. That was Christmas Day ngadto me. Kaya ako lang i-share kana excited ko. Kani ato nakita nga ni. Amo nagi agi-agian, gisuri-suruyan jud na mo. Kay we cannot go down man kay ikaw man na siya sa ilawom kay tubig man ya kanang humok ang soil. So mo kuan ka mo agi kag mga ani. Okay, just be careful. Sa paghimo ani niya na ipare di bless. Then dito ang atong very handsome Vice Mayor. Okay. So if you happen to go there, na may chance to visit our mangrove eco park at Naungan, try because you will be amazed. The symbiotic interaction in a mangrove ecosystem includes many organisms that depend on mangrove for survival. Animals like oysters, mollusks, and barnacles are dependent on mangrove for their source of food and habitat. Commensalism is also shown when barnacles and oysters attach themselves to the roots of the mangroves. Okay lang sa roots of mangroves nga na mga barnacles nga mukuan niya mo pilit, okay ra. It is not affected. Fishes stay in the mangroves during a particular stage of their life. Samtang gagmay pa kay sila, nga sila ilawom sa mga roots sa mangroves kay mo hide against sa mga dagko nga mga fishes. They grow and develop into a mature fish. Mutualism is shown when animals like crabs and mollusks help break down plant litter, kanang mga dahon sa mga mangroves nga mahulog, motikaunon sa mga crabs. Plant litter in a mangrove ecosystem through grazing. Kaya mamatay kaunan, no? Then white heron or tagak or white ibis, they eat the fish, no, showing predation in this kind of ecosystem. Narana sila sa ibabaw, magsiglupad-lupad ang mga birds, and then they dive right away kung nanailang fish nga mag-victim. Now, mangrove swamps ecosystem is important for they serve as breeding and nesting grounds of animal species. Mangrove shelter is used as shelter by fishes as breeding and nursing grounds before heading to the open ocean. Mangroves are also important habitat of organisms. Numerous animal species find protection and abundant food in the environment. It also acts as natural barrier and flood defense as they defend coastlines from flooding and erosion. Lastly, mangrove is an important source of livelihood of people living in coastal areas. Kidaghan kay nagamit ang mangrove. Number 1, ganyan niya is food. Number 2, protection sa mga villagers. Sa mga nagpuyo nga na against waves, mga dagko kay nga mga waves during bagyo, dili man makaatake dayon ang dagko nga wave, mapusak siya kay naamay mga mangrove trees nga maka-prevent niya. Now, muna kadaganan kung naay bagyo, mga small boats, mga fishing boats, they will go to Naungan and hide there. Nato sa luyo sa bakhawan. Okay, that's now. What's more activity? Identify and discuss the interaction between living and non-living things in a mangrove swamp ecosystem. Write your answer. Okay, so you have there the oyster and mangrove, the white heron and water, the crab and mud, the mangrove and bird. Again, kung maglisod, pwede mo ask sa mga ate o mga kuya o pwede sad mo mag-research sa Google. Or pwede ninyo ma-pause, mabalik. Na ang mga relationship, unsa man to ang mga relationship? Mutualism, predation, commensalism. Okay, activity 2. Answer the questions below. Write your answer on your answer sheets. First question, what are the interactions that exist among living and non-living things in mangrove? Naabay predation nga to, naabay commensalism, naabay mutualism. So what? Are these interactions important? Why? Importante ba na mutualism na naangan ha, ang commensalism, ang predation? Nga naman. You're right also. Okay, what I have learned. Complete every statement by supplying the blank with a word or group of words from the box below. Write your answers. I learned that ecosystem is composed of mostly mangrove plants like crustaceans and migratory birds. Para sa likod. Our next slide. Yan na. Okay. Mangroves are important because they serve as breeding and nesting grounds of blank, a source of livelihood of people living in coastal areas. In this kind of ecosystem, blank is shown when animals like crabs and mollusks help break down plant litter in a mangrove ecosystem through grazing. Blank is shown when white heron tagak ate fish. Ay, nanaay ni bisita nako nga little butterfly. Hope that this butterfly is bringing money to me. Okay, what I can do? The ESO members of Bago City Negros Occidental participated in the conduct of mangrove planting and cleanup drive at Purok Batad, Barangay Sampinet, Bago City. Oh, ang bago rabay na inana. Siyempre, naasad ta. O naasad ni. Now, the ESO Bago tree planting activity at Purok Batad. During the mangrove planting, pupils were asked to identify the different factors that would ensure the survival of plants and other living things, living organisms in the mangrove ecosystem. Okay, by the way, pasan nga ito yung mangrove sa San Antonio de Pitahan, nasa dito. Charan! It's me, Teacher Eleanor. During our YesO or part of our YesO activity, we, the YesO advisors, these are the teachers in our district. They are my friends, no? Planting mangroves at Naungan, Ormoc City was one of the YesO activities that we YesO advisors have done. I was very excited at this time. Kay makangadto na jud ko og mangrove plantation. So inana siya class, lapok. Dili ta mag-choose, no? Amo gibit-bit ang among mga tsinelas, among mga footwear. Tapos it's very easy. Kay mura kot-koton using your magdala kang kahoy gamay or it can be your palm, no? Tapos tanawa na mo nang mangrove, one of the mangroves that we planted. I don't know kung sa among gitanong nga mangrove na abay na nga buhi. Hopefully unta to, diba? So during our activity at that time, I was able to plant 30. Kay magbuwag-buwag man yan, di ba? It's very enjoyable. Not together with the other YesO teachers from Ormoc City. Okay, next, identify the living and non-living things, mangrove ecosystem, and discuss how they interact. For example, water and mangrove. The example is water enables the growth of mangrove. Mangrove in return helps filter the pollutants from the river runoffs, making the water free from harmful buildup of sediments. Sa mamantay lain, ang mangrove bang isda, ang mangrove of barnacles, na ang mangrove o ang tagak or ang heron. Napidakan kayo ng interaction. Okay? Pwede ra mo mag-research, mo balik, mo pause, i-replay, okay ra. For your additional activity, using a concept map below, identify the type of interaction that exists in mangrove swamps. Okay, so mutualism. Tapos mahatag kang example. And then predation, mahatag kang example. Then sa ubos, na example na gihatag, unsa man na siya nga relationship. Oysters attached to mangroves. Unsa man na? Sige na ko na, can you guess? Oh, yes. That's commensalism. So, na may bonus. Mutualism, commensalism, predation. Inyo na lang example daw kabo. Okay. We are done. So, let's go to assessment. To identify whether you were able to grasp the knowledge that I imparted you a while ago. Kung na ba'y nahinumduman, okay, rag balikon, pwede rag i-pause para makakuha sa correct answer. This time, I will no longer read, but you have to to read by your own silently and choose the letter of the correct answer. Okay? Let's get started! Again, pwede ra i-pause. Number 3 and number 4. Pause. Number 5, 6, and 7. Pause na sad. Number 8, number 9, and number 10. Okay. Are you through? Pwede ba i-pause, ibalik, pwede pa. Okay. So, this has been Teacher Eleanor saying thank you for watching and bye-bye. Excited to see you again for our next video lesson. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Mwah.